In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God of all goodness, we are here today to give thanks. We give thanks for your goodness to us, for the many blessings of our lives poured out upon us through the Bellarmine community, and in a particular way today, through the Bellarmine graduates whom we honor. We give thanks for Vic Giacalone, Jerry Wade, and Rusty Zimmerman, and all the ways they have served you, served this community, and served your people. We give thanks for their witness of selfless love for your people. We give thanks for the witness they provide us of care for those whom the world too often disregards, the marginalized whom you hold so dear and call us to love. We give thanks for their generosity, humility, and compassion. And today we ask through the intercession of St. Ignatius Loyola and St. Robert Bellarmine that we may all continue to grow as companions of Jesus in love and service. And we ask you in a special way to send down your Spirit upon them and upon us. Fill us with your consolation and your peace, with your joy and generosity. Bless these servants of yours, Vic, Jerry, and Rusty, that they may know their own goodness and your attentive care for them as they continue to love and to serve you. May we walk forward together in the way of your Son, Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Father. To help honor our first recipient, Vic Giacalone, here's one of his longtime friends, a Bell alumnus from the class of 1981, who in 2017 was the inaugural Hall of Fame inductee in the category of business. He's one of the most respected business leaders in the Valley, well known for his philanthropy and integrity. Please welcome the chairman of Block Construction, Mr. Mike Block.
Thank you, Brian. Well, good evening. What an honor it is for me to introduce our first inductee, Vic Giacalone. The Bellarmine Hall of Fame committee has hit a grand slam when it selected Vic for this singular honor, and I applaud the committee for its wisdom. Truly, Vic epitomizes Bellarmine's mission of forming men with and for others. I've been blessed to know Vic now for more than 40 years, and it all started as a result of his generous donation of a fishing trip on his boat at the Golden Bell auction, a trip that my dad was the lucky bidder on. My dad asked a few customers to go, and there was an extra spot, so a 16, 17-year-old kid got to go and tag along and meet Vic for the first time. And what a trip it was. As we went out under the Golden Gate, steered toward the Farallon Islands, a good trek that unfortunately saw a few get seasick. We caught some fish, made it home safely, and the legend of Vic Giacalone was born in the Block family for sure. Today, Vic still invites my family and I to go fishing, and we love to do so. He is the consummate host, skipper, and fisherman, and he loves every minute out on his boat. Trying to introduce Vic to a crowd that knows him so well already is a little daunting, I must admit, because you already know what an extraordinary man he is. So I'll just cut to the chase and share a few of the many admirable characteristics I see in Vic. First, Vic is a dedicated family man. Secondly, he's a servant leader. Thirdly, he's generous. Fourthly, he's gregarious. And last but not least, he's faith-filled. When it comes to role models of how to be an engaged and loving dad and grandfather, look no further than Vic. He is so close to his children, their spouses, and their kids, and he revels in their Sunday family dinners. I know he feels blessed that 3 of his 4 children live nearby and are here tonight. Hopefully the 4th, Victor, is also watching live. In addition to watching all of his kids and grandkids play sports, I know he enjoys most taking the grandkids on the fishing boat. And when he describes those Saturdays or Sundays, you can always see an extra twinkle in Vic's eyes. Vic is a servant leader, and it shows in how he runs his business and how he's volunteered his whole life. Allow me to summarize for just a moment a few of the organizations Vic has volunteered as a board leader and often as a board president. The Kiwanis, San Jose Rep, Bronco Bench, San Jose Historical Museum, Bellarmine Alumni Council, where he's still very active, the Guadalupe River Park Conservancy, Loaves and Fishes, San Jose Chamber, San Jose Rotary, and the Order of Malta. Vic is generous. Vic has wired just about every building on this campus at a considerable discount. But it's not just here at Bellarmine, even though that would be enough if it were. It's the Jesuits up on the hill in Los Gatos. It's every time people like Tony Mirinda and I call Vic for some poor Catholic church or parish throughout this valley, Vic is there. It's every other charity that needs help in this valley. Vic is always there with his company. And I'd be here till tomorrow if I tried to list every job Vic and his company have donated on. Vic is gregarious. Again, this isn't a surprise to any of you. Gosh, he's never met a stranger, only a person he hasn't met yet and befriended. I'll never forget having lunch with Vic 5 or 6 years ago, and we were talking about business prospects and maybe who he could help introduce us to. We had a lull in the action, I think, back then. And I came away from that lunch completely convinced that basically Vic knew everybody in Greater San Jose, and that if he wanted to run for mayor, he could do so without even running a campaign because everybody knows him and everybody loves him. It's amazing. But lastly, Vic is faith-filled. I get to see Vic's Catholic faith in action in a very unique way just about every month. You see, Vic organizes a group of volunteers from the Order of Malta and the general public to go into homeless encampments here in San Jose, in downtown, to deliver care packages, toiletries, coats, gloves, reading glasses, water, sandwiches, whatever it is. But what's really amazing is Vic just doesn't deliver these packages. He truly tries to see Christ's face in every person he meets. You can tell by the way he greets them. He extends his arm to shake their hands. He introduces himself. He asks the unhoused person for his or her name, and then he strikes up a conversation. Vic befriends the poorest in our community. He knows their names. He knows where they live, and he knows what's happening in their lives. Moreover, he cares about them deeply. I encourage everyone in this room that if you've never been on one of these trips, please see Vic afterwards, and I know he'll recruit you to help us do this type of work. And I just have to say, amidst the most squalid and detestable conditions that you've ever seen, Vic brings hope, respect, and human dignity. And he truly practices his faith by deeds, not words. So as you might tell, I am a huge fan of Vic. He is a role model to me, a mentor, the type of person the world needs more of. Vic, congratulations on this wonderful and well-deserved recognition. You embody the outcome for which Bellarmine aspires, to form men for and with others. I'm sure I can speak for so many here in this room tonight when I say we thank God that we get to call you friend. So ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Vic Giacalone.
That's why you have a family business, is to provide for your family. You know, since I spent a lot of time here, it's kind of nice to have it almost like a family room kind of atmosphere. A lot of the furniture was given to me by my mother. I've got some models of cars that I own or have owned over the years. Then the old piece of the Bellarmine gym hanging on the wall there. It's really been my concept of running the business is to keep it from familial. My mom and my dad started Best Electrical in 1954. I got to see my parents working very hard to make Best Electrical successful back in the day. They took a big chance. When my dad was an electrician, working 40 hours a week and getting a paycheck every week, he saw that he could do things a better way than he was allowed to do working for a contractor. I learned from them that, you have to take a chance every now and then. I grew up in downtown San Jose. I was a pudgy little Italian boy playing cowboys and Indians with my neighbors on Sonoma Street. Until one day my parents told me I wasn't going to go to public middle school, that I was going to go to St. Joe's Middle School. And when I asked them why, they said, because we want you to go to Bellarmine. I developed friendships, did reasonably well scholastically. I really attribute a lot of who I am to the Jesuits because they gave me such a great education and a great example of, men for others. My parents were operating out of our house. I remember they converted what was my bedroom at one point into the office for Best Electrical. I remember my mom working away there, but we still always had 3 meals a day. And I also saw them work their way through hard times, which has helped me working my way through hard times. My dad required that we work in the business, and many a Saturday I was at the shop sorting stuff and working on the old trucks. I realized that you got to do what you got to do, and if it means working on a Saturday or Sunday or working 10 or 12 hours a day, you do it. That was the lessons I learned as a child, and it stuck with me. It stuck with my children too. My children, Ruth and Nicholas, are really running the show on a day-to-day basis. They've seen me working hard at this business to keep it going and keep it successful, and I think that's carried over in their lives, and I'm proud of that. It's been a lot of really significant jobs we've done over the years. And after all these years, we've done thousands and thousands of projects. I've made it a goal to be the electrical contractor for the Bellarmine projects, and consequently, every building on the Bellarmine campus except for the gym and Licardo has been wired by my firm. I do a lot consulting. Construction claims litigation, as it's called, and we were asked to help defend a lawsuit against another electrical contractor, and 900 cases later we're still doing it. We're doing business with people that primarily that we know personally, and they respect us and we respect them. So I think that's the primary asset of having a family business, is that you're able to know your customers personally and vice versa. Frankly, I didn't really realize how influenced I was, affected I was by the Jesuits until my adult years. The Order of Malta is a lay religious order. It's the oldest order in the Catholic Church, 900 plus years in the offing. I've been involved since 2010, and our mission is to help the sick and the poor. We have hospitals and support various endeavors. We're helping the Ukrainians right now and so forth. Locally, we work in soup kitchens, but the primary thing we've been doing is producing and handing out hygiene kits to the homeless, just like the ones right across the street from my office here. And so many of them just simply matter that they lost their jobs and couldn't pay rent, and now they're living in a tent or living with pallets and a tarp over their head, or a trailer if they're lucky. Giving back directly to Bellarmine and helping other alums to get involved. We came up with the concept of having Christian service events. So we've helped at Martha's Kitchen, we've helped at Loaves and Fishes, we've organized events, family supportive housing, a nativity school. So that's been very rewarding for me too, to get a lot of people involved, including my sons, to give them the opportunity to volunteer their time as bells. I've been very blessed to have a wonderful wife and a great family and a successful business and a lot of good friends. I feel the need to give back. I mean, that's as simple as that.
Please join me in welcoming up Vic Giacalone. Congratulations, Vic. Congratulations, Vic. Very well earned.
Thank you, thank you.
Fans standing for you here.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Well, Mike, I'll start by thanking you, Mike Block, for that amazing introduction. I almost don't have to give a talk. Mike said it all, with a little embellishment, but that's okay. Thank you all for being here today. When I was aware that I was going to receive this award, I was really pleased to know that Father Wade was going to be receiving an award too. So I knew there was going to be some people in the audience other than Mariana and the kids. But they're here too, right down here. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, the Bellarmine staff, the Alumni Council, all the members of the Bellarmine community that bestowed this award upon me. It's incredibly gratifying for me to receive something from Bellarmine. Bellarmine's meant so much to me, and it's nice to be recognized. You know, people normally say they're really humbled by receiving an award like this, and I am, but I'm very happy too. It's really, really cool. So thank you very much. I had a lot of Jesuit influence in my life, really before Bellarmine and after Bellarmine. My family's parish back when I was a child was Holy Family, which was a church in downtown San Jose on River Street. The pastor was Father DeLucchi, who was a Jesuit. Then later, as the video indicated, when my parents decided I needed to get out of public school and go to Catholic school, I went to St. Joseph's School for the 7th and 8th grade. Father Dondero, another Jesuit, was the pastor at St. Joe's. Then, of course, I came to Bellarmine and was fortunate to have education taught to me by many Jesuit priests and scholastics. And as a matter of fact, when I was at Bellarmine, kind of a golden age, I think. I know there's some other guys out here, too, had the same experience. I'm looking at Rick Pardini. I'm sure he could say the same thing. I had all Jesuits for 4 years except for 2 classes. Mr. McPherson and Mr. Hanna, the football coaches. They really taught me a lot, not just scholastically, but they taught me about giving and being a man for others. Let's face it, they give their whole life to us. And I'm very appreciative of that, and it made me a better person. But there's one Jesuit that really stands out in my life, and you're going to be hearing from him in a couple of minutes, Father Wade. Father Wade, we call our Giacalone family priest. He is baptized with his partner, Father Cobb, all 9 of our grandchildren, married 3 of our 4 children, and he's always been there when we needed him. I met Mr. Wade in 1962 when he walked into my Latin class, my junior Latin class, to teach, as he tells us, for the very first time he ever taught. I got to be sitting there, and I'm very fluent in Latin still, thanks to Father, and I often, talk in Latin, and people think I'm talking in Latin anyway. But it's all thanks to Father Wade, so thank you, Father. But he's the guy that really, really made me understand what it was to give back. I didn't really do too much when I was here at Bellarmine, extracurricular-wise. If you look at the program today, you see my senior picture. And in the yearbook, there isn't much text under my name. I didn't do a lot here. But I realized that as an adult that was a mistake and that I needed to start giving back to my community. And again, Father Wade was such a role model for me because of the fact that he gave his whole life to me and to my family and to all of us, pretty much all of us in this room. My epiphany came when I was at a football game with my son, a Bellarmine football game in the 80s, and Father was there. I'm not sure if he was a priest yet or not. Father, maybe you were still a scholastic, but be that as it may, it really hit me that I said, you know, I'm very happy at my growing family, successful business, and I need to start giving back. And that's really when I started getting involved in the community, and still doing it. I'm very proud of the fact that my 3 sons have gone to Bellarmine, and now my grandson Joe is here. Joe just played a football game today. The JVs won 14-7 against Menlo Atherton, so way to go, Joe. And I'm very proud of Best Electrical, the successes of Best Electrical, which currently is basically being run by my 2 youngest children, Ruth and Nick. They give me a lot of free time to involve myself in extracurricular activities, which there's a lot of things that I'm trying to do in the community still. But my most successful endeavor, what I'm most proud of is my marriage to Mariana for 54 years. Together, we've produced 4 incredible people, children, Victor, Dominic, Ruth, and Nicholas. We're so proud of them, and they've brought 4 beautiful people into our family as their spouses and produced 9 adorable, wonderful grandchildren. So that's really what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. Mariana is very proud of the fact that she's the mother of 3 varsity football team captains. That is a big claim to fame, but she's equally proud of the fact that her father and her grandfather were Bells, and consequently, because of that, Joe is a 5th-generation Bellarmine student in our family. So that is really a cool point, and Joe's doing us proud. You know, when I was here, again, you heard in the video, my parents told me to go to Bellarmine. They really did. I knew nothing about Bellarmine when I was growing up. Again, I was in public school, and then they decided I needed to go to St. Joe's to initiate my Catholic education, and then to take the Bellarmine exam and to come to school here. I was a chubby little Italian boy. I knew nothing about Bellarmine. I'd never played any sports. But obviously, I'm very endeared to Bellarmine, and I got a great education, made some wonderful, deep friendships. Some of my buddies are here today, class of '64, and others, and it's really stuck with me. And I even managed to make the football team when I was a junior. It took me a while. Wasn't as good an athlete as my sons and my grandson. But again, as I said, I was embarrassed about the fact that I really didn't do too much here when I was at Bellarmine, other than come to school and hang out with my friends. And I'm trying to live the dictate that we make a living by what we get, and we make a life by what we give. And that's really the way I see things. And that's why I've been involved with so many community organizations to help my community and to help my church. But the organization that's really stuck with me and affects me the most is the Order of Malta. Again, you heard that it's a lay Catholic religious order, about 900 years old, and it's given me the opportunity to be a man for others and to do Christian service routinely. Once a year, the order conducts a pilgrimage to Lourdes, and we take malades with us, sick people, many of whom are terminal, and we bring them to Lourdes with the hope they come with the hope of a cure, which doesn't happen very often, but miracles do happen. But they, more importantly, come to Lourdes with the hope of being spiritually at ease with their situation, be it cancer or multiple sclerosis or whatever it might be. We even had a young man who had broken his neck, who was a quadriplegic, but to see him get on the airplane sad and a little despondent, and to come home smiling and being okay with their situation, at least spiritually with God, with their faith, it's a wonderful gift that I'm afforded, and we're all afforded in the order. But now the order allows me to help the homeless in San Jose. Twice a month, a group of us go to the homeless encampments and help those poor folks, some of whom were right down the block. Here we are in one of the most beneficial, rich counties, probably in the United States, if not in the whole world, and we got, I think, 10,000 people living on the street. It's a sad commentary, and I'm glad I'm able to be involved in helping them just a little bit with hygiene kits and food sometimes and jackets and so forth. It's a great gift to be able to do that. So I'll close by saying, again, thank you all for being here, and go Bells.
Thank you, Vic. When our next honoree, Rusty Zimmerman, was asked to reflect on his time at Bellarmine, Steve Pinkston was among the faculty he fondly remembered. Steve recently retired from Bellarmine after 40 years of service to our school, and his impact in our community has been so profound that the school established the Steve Pinkston Endowment, which supports and promotes faculty diversity at Bellarmine. Please welcome Steve Pinkston.
Thank you, Brian. First, let me say bravo to you, Vic. You talked about the fact that you had not done a lot while you were a student at Bellarmine, but over the last couple of decades, I've watched you serve those who, the least of these, Jesus calls them, in Columbus Park. I've watched you tutor students from Sacred Heart Nativity School in the spring of each year. I've watched you engage in service, so thank you. I am pleased and honored this evening to introduce my former student, Rusty Zimmerman. I taught Rusty 25 years ago. Truly, I think Rusty would have been pleased to have had Larry Harden, a close friend of mine, a former teacher of Rusty's, to introduce him tonight. But I dare say Larry is looking down from heaven and smiling and saying, "Well done, young man." 25 years ago, Rusty enrolled in my African American experience class with some other rascals, James Reddick and Chris Brown and Rod Theodule and Gabron Papillon. Rusty left his comfort space to explore the other, to engage with a community that was new to him because he wanted to find out about the other. In talking with Rusty earlier this week, before he flew out from New York, he recalled that we had taken a class trip to Kepler's bookstore in Menlo Park to hear and meet with and see Dr. Cornel West. I said, "Boy, you remember that?" And then he went on to say, yes, and he remembered that a classmate, Gabron, had asked a question of Cornel West regarding, in reference to W.E.B. Du Bois. I was amazed at his sharp mind. Rusty, 25 years ago, designed one of the many, many African-American Student Union t-shirts. And when I was still here at Bellarmine, when we would have open house ceremonies, we would display various AASU t-shirts, and Rusty's was there, prominently displayed, and it always brought a smile to my face. Tonight, we really want to celebrate Rusty's year-long project, and you'll hear about this soon, from June of 2015 to June of 2016, in which he engaged in a portrait and oral history project in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, New York. Over that 365-day time frame, Rusty painted 200 portraits of a wide range of people in New York. The young as 9 days old, the old as 90, Hasidic Jews, Haitians, hipsters, black, white, brown, you name it. Rusty was trying to capture the essence and the look and the feel of Crown Heights in New York. The project celebrated neighbors. It celebrated the diversity of the community. The portrait showed people who were with hopes and who had dreams, those who had experienced loss, those who had experienced great success, those who were vulnerable. Through this project, people felt regarded. People felt their worth. People felt empowered through this project. People saw commonalities, saw others that they might not have spoken to in walking down the street, but now were speaking to. Rusty caused people to get a sense of what Dr. Martin Luther King called the beloved community. Rusty gave people a sense of what Father Greg Boyle calls moving from an us and them mentality to moving towards a we, an us mentality, where Rusty challenged people to become agents of change, positive change, agents to care for each other and support each other and engage in empathetic dialogue. As Bellarmine's former service director, I loved learning that Rusty engaged his subjects, his art subjects, in service projects. He had new folks coming to the community engage in intergenerational dialogue with older people, senior folks with gray hair. He had folks engaging in recycling projects and feeding projects, and even doing a service project in a Nigerian mosque during Ramadan. I believe Rusty really reflected on his time at Bellarmine, his time being challenged to be a man for others. And I think Rusty's project engaged people just like Rusty engages himself day by day when he teaches art projects to seniors, when he teaches art projects to people who are on the fringes of society in a harm reduction center. Rusty, to use the vernacular of some younger people, you the man. Please welcome, after the video, Rusty Zimmerman.
Somebody once told me that to be seen is to be loved. With a canvas like this here, I tend to mess it up first, make it imperfect. Most times people turn themselves towards a camera. They put their own best face forward that they would like the world to see. My job is to capture whatever's in front of me, regardless of that's how people would like to be seen. I think a lot of the unintentional aspects of my work ended up being called what somebody told me is called social practice. I think I was 16. Larry Harden, may he rest in peace, took me on for an independent study. I'd failed out of concert band in the 0 period here at Bellarmine. I just couldn't wake up that early. So I needed to construct a class out of thin air, and I talked to Larry, who was my counsel, my mentor here, and he created this independent study where I would paint in his room, and on Fridays at 8 a.m. from 8 to 9, he and I, one-on-one, would discuss earnestly whatever it is that I had painted. Being called upon to take that exercise seriously, that it would be the subject of conversation between me and a teacher. To have that message that what you're doing is worth discussing, that what you're doing is worth consideration. It's powerful. There are always leaps of faith. I took my first trip to New York City in March of 2004 to see if I can show my book around, my portfolio to magazines. The dream of maybe getting the cover of Time magazine or Rolling Stone at the time was a big deal for me. One old man, Gene Case at Avenging Angels Incorporated, a nonprofit for good causes design studio, he said, "What are you doing this week?" I said, "Working for you." And they said, "We just got a call from The Nation magazine. They need a cover, portrait of Hugo Chavez, president, dictator, prime minister, whatever he was, of Venezuela, about something called petropopulism, using the nation's vast oil reserves to fund things like socialized medicine and education." So I got to make a picture about that, and it was a cover of a magazine with national exposure, theoretically. I said, "This is my big break. I'm moving to New York City." The project in Crown Heights was born out of a selfish, upbringing. I wanted to be a better painter. Around 2012, I started painting with friends and putting an exercise in front of myself to see how much of a picture I could possibly bring from start to finish in a 4-hour span. It led me to say, well, this is great exercise, but I wish I could make this my full-time occupation. I want to do this for a living. Crown Heights at the time was one of the most rapidly changing, demographic shifting, rent rising neighborhoods in New York City at the moment in 2015, and is fabled for its diversity, including Caribbean and Hasidic Jewish and, African American. All sorts of folks came to live in Crown Heights, and everybody was in this 2-mile by 1-mile rectangle, about 125,000 people. But the truth is, we didn't interact as well as we could. Everybody stayed in their pockets. And that didn't sit well with me either. The idea that we would, celebrate our diversity but not actually say hi. That's silly to me. So I said, yeah, let's do something about that. And so the work then became capturing a community in transition. When I interview people, while I paint portraits of them, especially during exercises and community documentation, I always like to ask everybody about their notion, how they define wealth, comfort, and security, especially if they had to explain it to a 10-year-old child, to a 5th grader. Because I think that really makes people kind of like stretch their own brain to like, how would I simplify it? So as everyone explained to me what making a living was for them, what was wealth and comfort and security for them, I noticed one peculiar trend. There was one fellow who made $30,000 a year. Another fellow made $100,000 a year. And still another made $300,000 a year. And I asked them the same question. Do you feel wealthy? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel secure? And each person, despite their vast disparities of, socioeconomic resources, they all said, I'm not rich, I'm not poor, but I'm comfortable. And I thought that was remarkable. Common ground is easy enough to find. If you just talk and listen and give people space, each and every person I interviewed had something remarkable to say. They had some bit of wisdom that they were sitting on. They had something to share, they had something to give, and everybody was worth listening to. And that was remarkable to me. And it inadvertently turned into an oral history project. We ended up raising $60,000 over the course of a year and a half to provide 200 oil-painted portraits from life to people regardless of their ability to pay for such a thing, and captured a broad swath to accurately reflect the demographics of this neighborhood in transition, recorded a collected oral history that we were able to share to other local historical societies, and damn thing ended up in Brooklyn Borough Hall and the Brooklyn Museum and the Brooklyn Children's Museum in different incarnations and iterations, and culminated in 200 paintings. My studies here at Bellarmine, this place, and the people that I met here, they're the ones who squared me away to be who I am today. I've still got plenty of room for improvement, and I aim to just keep moving in that direction.
Please join me in welcoming up Rusty Zimmerman.
Hot damn. Good evening. Let's try that one more time. Good evening. That's a cooking. All right. I learned a little while back to start in everything and end everything by saying thank you. So a short, unordered list. My family for being here. Steve Pinkston, thank you so much for taking the time. And to my closest mentors here at Bellarmine who are no longer with us, Larry Harden and Rob Suarez, for teaching me some of the toughest work that men ever get called upon to do, which is that Rob taught me to sit, whether comfortably or uncomfortably, with whatever was inside of me. And Larry taught me how to gracefully, ideally artfully, get it out. And the work that I did, it started from a selfish place. I just wanted to be a better painter. And I knew that would happen with practice. And I knew I'd get practice if I got to paint pictures of people from life each and every day. But models in New York City cost about $25 an hour. And the pool of folks who are calling for oil-painted portraiture from life was regrettably slim in the circles that I ran in. But I talked to a fellow class of '98, Vic Giacalone, who was involved in the field of crowdfunding at the time, and he explained it to me. And he said that in order to get folks to support the work that you want to do, you have to cast a wider net than the folks that you already know, and reach out to people beyond your circle, to bigger circles, and make something that resonates with a broader community. In fact, if you can capture and document a community, then that'll probably hook and hit home, and folks might want to support that. And folks did, and it was wild. And what ended up happening is that it kind of quietly upended a tradition of this oil-painted portraiture, which is this rarefied, antiquated thing that had been historically reserved for a wealthy few, predominantly old, dead white male few, and that obviously could benefit from a fresh take. When I set out to get to know the neighborhood that I'd been living in for some years then, I wanted to accurately reflect all the demographics and get everybody who was in the neighborhood in the picture, and that required me to go to the pub first and say, what do I do? And then thankfully I met a bartender who said, well, what did the local community board say? And I said, what's a community board? But then I found out and I attended, and then I met the city council and the state assembly and local church and synagogue leaders, and did my time going into soup kitchens first and saying, how can I be of service? And would you like to nominate any face of the neighborhood? Who makes this place for you? Who, if they weren't in the picture, it wouldn't be a picture of the neighborhood. And that outreach was a lot. And the fundraising was a lot, and the painting was a lot, and framing 200 pictures was a lot, but I had a lot of help, and that's why I always refer to the whole thing in the royal we, because none of this would have happened without the support of friends and fellow artists who donated their work for fundraisers, and everybody who got behind it. For the participants, for the 200 people who sat for those pictures, seeing themselves in a picture was important to them. I always say that there was this fellow, Marshall McLuhan, I think, said something about the medium being the message, and I didn't understand what it meant at the time, but if you took your face and you put it on an 8.5 by 11 black and white photocopy, and you stapled it to a wooden telephone pole, people would look at your face and to say, that person is lost or missing. Somebody ought to find them. I hope they get found. Because that's what 8.5 by 11 photocopy on a pole means to us. But if you take the same face and you put it on an oil-painted canvas, and you put a frame around it and you hang it on a museum wall, those folks say, well, that person must be important. They must be worth hearing from and listening to and looking into what sort of life they lived. And there was a woman named Yolanda Clark who was in the neighborhood, 94 years of age at the time, about 3.5 blocks from me. And somebody said, you gotta get her in the picture, because she was one back and 4 to the left of Dr. King on the steps in Washington during his I Have a Dream speech. And you're gonna wanna hear what she had to say. So in advance that she might show up, I bought a microphone. And to test it out, I brought the first person who sat down, and I put it next to him. And Yolanda Clark never showed up. I got her on the phone, and she said, you should have gotten me when I was younger. I was prettier then. And that was foolish. But far be it from me to tell a 94-year-old woman what to do. But everybody else, it turned out, had something to say. Everybody had something that was worth listening to. Everybody had some jewel of wisdom, some notable life experience that was tinged with a commonality they shared with somebody else in the pile of people in the neighborhood. And I got to pair people up and say, you both have this in common. You make artisanal handcrafted nails, and you run the hammer factory. You guys should get to talking. And I'm pleased with the work, and being that it wrapped in 2016 and have taken on a couple mild iterations since then, I've just been doing other things. A few things have changed since all that. I got hitched, I got lawfully wedded to a wonderful woman who came with 2 kids, and I became a stepdad a couple months ago, and we moved me out of my little apartment in Crown Heights, and now we live in South Brooklyn in a beautiful home for 3 folks and a dog. And then I got this call from Bellarmine. It said they want to honor me for my work. And my wife, Megan, who always has good advice, she said, you like that work. You should do it again. And so I am. The next phase, well, hold still, there's more. But I will be quick. The next phase of this work, as hearing from y'all and hearing from my wife has inspired me to take it up again. I'll begin it again in my new neighborhood in Kensington, South Brooklyn, in January of 2023. And I'll paint 200 more portraits of my new neighbors and get to know them and tell you all about, and let them tell you all about who they are and where they live and what makes us all one big place. And thanks for celebrating this work with me. If you'd happen to like to support the next steps of this project, you can visit freeportraitproject.org, or on the off chance that a QR code were to appear behind me. You could scan that to learn more and support this work. Beyond that, it's just dazzling to be up here, looking out in this enormous auditorium, talking about a few things have changed. The Black Box Theater of Benson was smaller. I don't remember all these blue lights. And speaking in front of so many folks who helped me to be the person that I am today. You should see it and feel it from here. It's ironic to be honored for this work that really just showcased how important it is to hear from everybody. And it sounds a little unusual now that I'm a new step parent to tell children and grown-ups, talk to strangers. You absolutely should. I learned that from you folks. I was new to a whole Catholic enclave as being like a Jewish-ish kid who was sent here because this was the best school in the neighborhood. And we had one of them things in the chapel, and somebody said, "Peace be with you." And everybody swiveled to the left and right. And whether they knew him or not, and they said, "Peace be with you, and also with you." I like that. I get along with that. So I'm going to do what I can to carry that forward. So thank you for being here. Thanks for letting me share. And please do say hi to your neighbors and talk to strangers. Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty. And now, with great anticipation and maybe a little trepidation, we welcome Father Dick Cobb to say a few words about our next honoree, Father Jerry Wade. If the Jesuits had an equivalent of legendary show business pairings, I'm thinking Jack Klugman and Walter Matthau, then it would certainly be Dick Cobb and Jerry Wade. They've enjoyed quite a friendship over the years, and we have all benefited by witnessing that relationship and their good-natured kidding of each other. Please welcome the recent recipient of Bellarmine's 2022 President's Award, Father Dick Cobb.
Thanks for that martini. Thank you very much. Well, Vic Giacalone, Rusty Zimmerman, and Jerry Wade. How fortunate can we be? How fortunate is the world to have three individuals such as these? Jerry Wade. I'm sure as many of you sit here in the theater tonight, you realize how much has changed at Bellarmine. Simply looking at this incredible facility that we have now, wandering around our campus, things are not the way they used to be. So much change. But things have not changed. We still have an incredible administration, a wonderful faculty and supportive staff. Our students are generous beyond belief, serving the local community. All of the Bellarmine people are faithful to the Jesuit mission, trying to set the world on fire and being men for others. When we speak of stability, we mention Jerry Wade, a perfect example. I'd hate to guess how many people in this theater tonight have been recipients of his baptisms, weddings, funerals. Incredible personal concern that he has. He's ministered to you in so many ways as a priest. But the greatest thing of all is his personal care for you and all the members of your families. Jerry Wade, as many people know, we are best of friends until this evening. As you know also, we have journeyed together, traveled many, many miles. We've been to Canada, Scotland, Ireland, had wonderful times together. Tonight, I thought, in bringing this down to reality, I would share a page from my diary of our travels. Diaries never lie. I do. But I thought I might read just one page to you and comment on the experience. We were in Ireland, in Kinsale, which is on the western side, coast side. It had been a very difficult day, battling the heat and the dusty roads, and we had to stop every so often to clear our throats, to loosen up the dirt and dust that was there. But we were staying in Kinsale, which at that time in the year 2000, and the date was July 4th. Kinsale at that time was considered the gourmet capital of Ireland. So that night, after a busy day, we dined at Max's restaurant in Kinsale. And as my diary said here, we had a dinner of fantastic skilly wild salmon in a very mild sauce. Now the waitress that night, I don't know how to say this, I'll say a fair lass, okay? She was from Ireland and had spent some time in New York, Ireland and New York. And so Jerry, of course, questioned her as she came, wanted to know about her family, how many sheep they had, what was the name of her favorite lamb. But anyhow, we had a lovely dinner and finishing dessert, and as Jerry normally does, he paid the bill. And as the waitress brought him the card, with the bill, she looked him in the eye and said, "Did anyone ever tell you that you look like Robert Duvall?" Robert Duvall, folks, Tender Mercies, Academy Award winner, Jerry Wade. I'm probably the only one that ever choked on ice cream. So what I'm asking tonight of all of you here, and seriously, if each one of you would match the tip that Jerry gave that fair lass, we could endow a scholarship in his honor. You are deserving of this award, great one. I look forward to many more years with you. God bless.
I've been very pleased to be involved in my whole life in Jesuit secondary education. When I first came to Bellarmine, I was a bit nervous, and I was probably a little too serious about my studies. Thank God there were a couple of young Jesuit scholastics that encouraged me to get involved in other activities. By my junior year, I was very involved in speech and debate and working then as one of the sub-editors of the Cardinal, the newspaper. I never missed a home football game. I'm not an athlete, but I love athletics. And so I found it wasn't just studies, but it was fun to be with other people. And I get this again from my mother and father. My mother and father were really interested in whomever they were talking with at any one time. I was born in the town of Santa Clara in 1937. My parents are very local. They were married in 1934, and I was their only child. My parents owned the pharmacy. My dad was a pharmacist and always had many people working for him. He loved working with the people. But I remember the store might be closed on Sunday. Somebody would call Mr. Wade, some lady somewhere, and needed her. She didn't realize she needed a prescription filled. My dad would walk down to the pharmacy and then take a city line bus out to deliver that package to that lady. In a sense, they were interested really in the people. And so I knew I kind of wanted to do something to emulate my dad in a way. I think of that a lot more these days. My senior year is kind of like when I then decided to at least give the Jesuit possibility a try. Ever since I was ordained a priest, has been doing priestly ministry, because I really am involved doing a lot of weddings, baptisms, funerals, visiting hospitals, and being with people at important times in their lives. But I entered the Jesuits to become part of that group that was involved in education. So I returned to Bellarmine as a young teacher at age 24, actually. At age 27, I taught all of the third-year Latin students. I was a prefect in the boarding halls too, which of the 3 years in the senior dorm, and wonderful young men, 40 of them with 2 of us in one old house, which was great. I drove the school bus for the teams, was moderator then of the school newspaper, ran the study hall at night at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So it was really 3 years of working very much. And then I went on to study theology at Alma College, a master's in philosophy from Gonzaga University, and then eventually a master's in theology through Santa Clara University. And then eventually I went on to do 2 years of a master's program in Latin at the University of Southern California. I returned to Bellarmine as a priest in 1979, this summer. My title was Superior, or in those days they called you Rector of the Jesuit Community, and you were also then President of the school. After my first 5 years, I no longer was the Superior Rector at the time, but I stayed on another 9 years as President. Then I went back as a Superior again. So I've been here since 1979. And then eventually they gave me the name of Chancellor, which means the old guy that knows the school somewhat and can represent the school and still be involved in development. What I learned early on, even as a teacher, young teacher here, is the support of our lay colleagues. Our lay colleagues, which means your teachers too and fellow administrators, but also the board members, to pay attention to the experts around you and to really listen to them and move forward with a consensus and with their advice. So I do listen to advice, I think, as much as possible, and really try to bring people together in that way.
I think Father Wade just embodies Bellarmine for so many people. During Father Wade's tenure as Bellarmine's president, he came in 1979 and stayed in that role until 1993. Really, that's when the seeds of the Bellarmine of today were sown. When the school began to grow larger, when we began to grow our endowment of the school, when the diversity of the school began to expand, when we began to hire more women who worked on faculty and more people of color, really the transformation of, if we look at Bellarmine being the outstanding Jesuit school it is today, I think that really dates back to that transformation started to happen, I think, during Father Wade's tenure.
One thing that's been very important to me in my life as a Jesuit priest is building up strong endowment funds for tuition assistance so that we have a diverse school all the time. After my dad died in '93, I started an endowment fund for tuition assistance in the name of the Wade family in honor of my mom and dad. There's going to be a building named after me. A little bit embarrassed by that, but I really hope that the name Wade will remind people also of my mom and dad, who were very much part of Bellarmine over the years. There are a few things that I hope I might be remembered by. Making sure that we have a strong tuition assistance program. And also that we always be a college prep, taking students who will go on to a college. To me, that's part of my legacy, not just at Bellarmine, but my legacy as a Jesuit.
The one and only Gerald T. Wade. I'm going to put the award back there.
Thank you very much. This is a great honor to see so many people here in our beautiful Sobrato Theater. And I have to admit, I'm a bit overwhelmed, but I enjoy it. Thank you all for being here. And I would, first of all, like to thank Brian Adams, who's the MC, I work with every day. And also, I want to thank Chris Mayacord for your introduction today, but also for your great leadership as president of Bellarmine, for your affirming leadership. For you, it's really a joy to work with you, Chris. And I should point out, I think, that I've known Chris a long time because I met him really when he was in middle school, because his older brother Ross started here, if I'm not mistaken, in 1982, so 40 years ago. And shortly afterwards, Father Eddie Reese, who was the principal, and I became friends of Wade and Phyllis Mayacord, his parents, and we used to come out and play tennis, Eddie Reese and myself against Phyllis and Wade, who always beat us, and then we would have a nice dinner with them. So I actually have known Chris Mayacord in a different role as a seventh grader, I think it was. So a long time it's been working with you today. Now, as president, thank you, Chris, very much for that. And Of course, I thank you, Father Richard Elliott Cobb. And, but I've learned a lot from Father Cobb, especially because he's 6 years older than myself. And I have to admit that that story is quite true in the sense that we had a wonderful waitress, okay? And I suggested maybe let's go back tomorrow night again. But he declined on that one. But we have traveled a lot together, and I really thank you, Dick, for making my life so enjoyable these many, many years with those trips, but also, and he's a little different. I wait to the last night to pack, okay? And Dick drives me nuts because he's packed a week before. And so I get there okay. Of course, when we get there the first night, whether it's in Scotland or Ireland and so on, I can find my things in a suitcase. He's a nervous Nelly because he can't find what it is because they packed him a week ago. But anyway, it's enjoyable to be with you this evening in a special way. I would also like to now thank my relatives who are here tonight. Would they please stand? I'd like to thank them for being here. Please, they're right in the middle section here, in a row there, I think, a good number of them. They are on my mother's side. Anyway, I'm most grateful and most pleased to really accept this meaningful award, and I do it in honor tonight and a thanksgiving for my mother and my father, Clara Cecilia Gorman and Walter William Wade. And you can tell maybe from the video that they are much on my mind in receiving this because of what they've given to me. Both of them whom grew up here in the Valley of St. Clair in kind of difficult times. My dad, born on Julian Street near San Pedro in downtown San Jose, where he lived, really, with his folks until he was married. And my mother born on the dirt road, Lawrence Station Road, which now is Lawrence Expressway, and moving into Santa Clara then. And then they met later on, and I think married when they were about 28 years old. But they really enjoyed life tremendously. Because I think in great part, they unselfishly made a difference for the good in the lives of others. If anybody I've ever witnessed who are really men and women for and with others, it's my mom and dad. And they were always so gracious with everyone. They would give themselves wholeheartedly to whomever and whenever they were with anybody, no matter what that person was, the background, and so on. And I really, as I grew up in Santa Clara with them, I was the only child, as it said, but they had wonderful friends. And there was one particular family, part of whom are here today, the South family, Charlie South, the postmaster, and Clarice South. And my dad was, of course, the pharmacist, and my mom worked at the telephone office at first. But they knew each other, and then finally, when the oldest son, Charles, was born for them, I was born a month later, and that's when we became friends for life, the families, okay? And there are other families there, too. One, Charles South, the oldest one, and I began first grade together, also with Bob Maley, who's deceased now, but part of his family is with us tonight, too. So I had the ability to grow up with some wonderful friends who also thought very much like my parents in that way. As it was mentioned in the movie, the video, let's see, the light went out, I think, but I think we're okay. Maybe it comes back. Anyway, I think I can get through. Okay. Anyway, I've got this pretty well memorized. So, there we go, thank you. I must press the wrong thing. That's okay. It went off. Anyway, this is, okay. There we go. Anyway, this helps a little bit, but okay. My dad's pharmacy was right in the heart of old Santa Clara. And my dad, Walter, was extremely proud that on the labels of Wade's Mission Pharmacy was the photo, really, or drawing of Santa Clara Mission. And I asked my dad, how did that come about? Well, when he was able to buy the Furnace Pharmacy there in 1938, he said he wanted people to know that it was a Catholic pharmacy and a Jesuit pharmacy, serving the Jesuits of Santa Clara and the Jesuits of St. Clair's. However, when I was going to Bellarmine, I thought maybe, I would maybe follow in my father's footsteps. However, I was a good student in most areas, but I was not very good in chemistry or the sciences. And so I haven't reflected on this in some years, but I think that I maybe chose the Jesuits entered the Jesuits after high school for a few reasons. One, I enjoyed the friendship and the community of Jesuits that really were making a big difference in the lives of other people. There were like 15 young Jesuit scholastics. In those days, there was only 650 students in the school. And also, the same time, the young men who graduated the years before me entered, and they were the leaders of the class and so on. And I kind of thought about that too, that maybe give a try for this. But I think in great part, I could see that I could follow in the footsteps of both my mother and my father, and also the way they live their lives in a very special way. And I'm also very grateful tonight, as I think back to my Jesuit brothers over the years, the last 67 years, from the day I entered. The brotherhood of the Jesuits have been so important. And people ask me sometime, when did you decide to become a priest? And I said, I never really did decide to try that. I decided to enter the Jesuits knowing I would be a priest eventually, but I entered mainly become a part of a community of men who were making a difference in other people's lives, much like my folks did in their marriage, in a sense. And so I say that today still. There are 10 Jesuits beside myself in our Bellarmine Jesuit community, and I could never live alone. Thank God that we can be together in a special way. Also, very important in my life, almost the get-go, have been my bigger family, and that would be our lay colleagues, the women and men who are join with us in our spirit of education for the young men. They really collaborate so well for us, and I'm so happy that I'm able to get to know their families and friends. And quite often, as I say, not only the faculty, but the staff, and especially those sometimes working behind the scenes that you don't see who make things really happen. Like the beautiful campus we have, the people who will be providing their dinner for us tonight in Locarno Kitchen. They're the people that really make this place such a beautiful and wonderful place to be. And I might also add that this has been true of all the schools I've been at, Jesuit High Sacramento and Loyola High School of Los Angeles. And like tonight, I'm not going to be thanking all of the staff by individuals, but the people working around me in Mathewson Hall who are part of our advancement team, they go the extra mile day in and day out. And for what the service you're going to receive tonight, the tables and everything, I thank all of them right now without any individual in particular. I would say this too, working over the years in development, I have come to appreciate those working with me who've been, and one person, when I first came here, the director of development and vice president was Ron Pine. And so throughout the 80s and through a good part of the 90s, he made me kind of look good in many, many ways as we made strides to kind of build up the campus, especially, as you've heard, very important to me, was building up our endowment funds for tuition assistance to make the school a school for all young men who qualify no matter what might be the financial situation of their parents. And thank God, one of the things I'm most proud of is that today it is a very diverse school, educating what really this valley is all about. And so I'm honored this evening also to be going into the Hall of Fame with, first of all, Rusty Zimmerman and Vic Giacalone. Rusty, I think you graduated in 1998, if I'm not mistaken. I forget now. But anyway, when I was watching the video the other day, I was so happy to see him highlight Larry Harden, because Larry not only was a great artist and so on, but he was a key person in our campus ministry department too. I went with him on several retreats, and his talk, the way he gave it, and the impact he made on the young men was fantastic. It is sad that he's gone from us, but one of the great people. And also now carrying on, Rusty, what you're doing back there, I had a chance to watch the video twice, is amazing what you've done for people in building them up in a special way and making a big difference in their lives. And Vic Giacalone, it's very true that when I came here after 7 years in the judgments, finally be able to do what I entered to do, to be with people rather than somewhere studying all the time. It was a real joy for me that first day of class. Bit nervous a little bit, because I know that these guys have been together for 2 years, and walking in their third year of Latin, the 4 classes of it, as I'm a rookie, so I had planned how to do it. But it was a real joy to walk in, and yes, Mr. Giacalone, Victor was a young third-year Latin scholar, okay, and then there's a few others here tonight I saw on the list too, who were I bet that very first day looking me over, okay? But I had been ready for that in a special way. And to believe me, it was a joy to finally do what I entered the Jesuits to do, to be with high school education after those years together. So I could go on all day, many people to thank, but I won't do it. Some people, Dick Cobb is probably worrying about this, when can we go eat? And so... But I thank all the people, and I just noticed I forgot. Also, as I referred to, I try to always live my life for a consensus building, and I really love to listen to others, whether they be fellow faculty members and people that are in my office with me, but also our boards of regents and trustees, because of the expertise and help they've been over the years, not just here, but my days as vice principal at Loyola High, my days as president and rector at the Jesuit High Sacramento. I owe so many thanks to them in a special way. And one more thing that I did think about is a beautiful theater. And when I did come here at Bellarmine, it was still very much like when I taught here and when I also was a student here. One of the things that was really lacking, and it shouldn't have been, is the fine arts humanities, okay? There was no art class at that time, and I don't take credit for that, because Father Eddie Reese began that first class of art years ago in the early 80s, and look what we have today in the music program, the fine arts program, pottery, and so on. And so, knowing Rusty was part of that, Rusty, there was nothing here when I came, and thank God today, you were in still the early years in a little bit, but we're blessed to have it today. So again, I thank you, and again, I accept this honor today in memory and especially honorable remembrance of my mom and dad, Clara and Walter. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, it's fantastic. Look at that. Right there. Can I help you down? Congratulations again, Father Wade. And how about another round of applause for all of our new Hall of Fame inductees? I hope you were inspired, especially the young folks out there and some of our students, inspired by these men and their stories. Our thanks to everyone for attending. Special thanks to our theater technical director, Greg Carlson, our production team at 51 West Media and ADF Video, photographer Michael Ponce, Chris Carey for the live stream, our director of alumni relations, Steve Connolly, our Office of Advancement staff, and our student ambassadors. A lot of folks were very helpful and instrumental in making tonight happen. It's time now to move the festivities outside for a reception on the patio of the Sobrato Center for Humanities and the Arts and on the Leo J. and Mary G. Lucas quad. You'll be happy to know there is no program from here on out. We know you're looking forward to catching up with friends and family and, of course, speaking with our honorees. We have, these are the words Bellarmine folks love to hear. There's a full bar open right now. And the buffet dinner will be available shortly. Seating is open. And we ask that you please use the doors on either side of the theater. If anyone needs assistance, we have student ambassadors ready to help you. And again, thank you so much. God bless. And as always, go Bells.